Turbo and 2K show.
What is up, 2K crew? Yes, no, your eyes do not deceive you. This is 2K's live in the saddle, 2 weeks in a row. 2K's, how you doing?
Oh, I'm good. I'm good. Glad to be here.
Good. Because we got an awesome show. Are you locked in? Are you fucking locked in? Are we ready to go?
Yeah.
This is yes. I love
Hit
it.
The fan yesterday.
Yeah, and like
we're kind of continuing today.
Yeah, we're gonna continue a trend. How just messed up all football is. I mean, starting from yesterday, and it picked right up in London today, and it just keeps rolling. And we've got the Steelers Cowboys in. It looks like a weather delay, right? 2Ks.
Yep.
Yeah, we're gonna spend most of the time today on college football. Some of the big upsets that happened yesterday, as well as kind of give you like, okay, those were the upsets. Now, where does the Heisman Trophy? Where is that going? Because I have a feeling it's trending a little bit further towards quarterbacks and towards some other folks. We're going to get into that, as well as talk some playoff baseball. 2Ks, our Tigers got smacked in the mouth.
Yeah, it wasn't the start that we were hoping for, but you got Tariq Skubal, who's done it all season long, he's kind of the guy that comes in, takes care of business. Hopefully tomorrow he's on his game. They can get back, tie this thing back up 1-1, come back to Detroit, and tomorrow's a huge game.
Oh, yeah.
It's everything, and I can't think of a pitcher in the game that I would rather have on the bump.
Nope.
Other than Skubal tomorrow, so I'm looking forward to it.
Nope, and it definitely is not the end of the world coming back to Comerica, tied 1-1. Yeah, I really can't imagine a better, well, 2-0 is a better scenario,
Oh,
but
yeah, absolutely.
but we'll get into that, as well as, if we have some time, go over the slate of games that was today. But 2Ks, let's jump into some news. But before we do that, I just want to take a quick second to thank our folks over on TikTok, our folks over on YouTube. How about Facebook? How about Twitter? How about our audio listeners? And audio listeners are our MVP, 2Ks. I mean, they week in, week out, we are in their ears, in their cars. Thank you. We love each and every one of you. So wherever you download your podcast, give us a follow on YouTube. Give us a subscription, a like. Hit that button so you know when we go live every single time. But yeah, dude, there's some news. There's some news here coming out. Let's jump off with the first one here. Some rather melancholy news, 2Ks. Baseball legend has passed away. Mr. Pete Rose. Mr. Pete Rose, R.I.P. Charlie Hustle, R.I.P. the MLB hits king. And here's a tweet here. And with the new setup, I have a hard time seeing all the way over there. So shout out to whoever that is. Field of Dreams is welcoming Pete Rose. I just really like that. I really like that photo. I mean, that is the quintessential photo. I mean, obviously photoshopped, but just kind of grabs the moment.
Oh, for sure.
Just kind of grabs the moment. And on a completely other note here, 2Ks, what irritated me the most about this is that it wasn't most news. Now, when we're talking ESPN, when we're talking MLB Network, they addressed Pete Rose as you and I would address him as the MLB hits king. Other news outlets were focusing on the negative, how, banned from baseball, betting, just kind of did not give him his due diligence. That irritated the shit out of me. But yeah, baseball lost a good one.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess what irritates me about it is there will be a day where he is put back in the Hall of Fame, and he should never deserve to be out of that, in my opinion. And the saddest thing about it is he won't be here to be able to celebrate that. So that was, I can't help but that was kind of the first thought that went through my head when I saw this. And yeah, it's unfortunate, but yeah, I think it's safe to say that he holds a record that will never be touched.
No, and it's funny you mention that, because there's some other things here, 2Ks, about Mr. Rose that I had no idea. So kudos to the folks here. But this is from Codify at Codify Baseball on Twitter. 2Ks, did you know Pete Rose was an all-star second baseman, an all-star left fielder, an all-star right fielder, an all-star third baseman, and an all-star first baseman? I mean, you talk about a whole different generation, a whole different thought process, a whole different everything in a whole approach to baseball. We don't see this anymore. I mean, you can kind of say Chris Bryant dabbled in this, but check this next tweet out, 2Ks. This is the amount of games. This is from Baseball History Nut. Again, if you guys and gals are baseball fans, give this account a follow. It's at nut_history. It says workhorse, hashtag RIP Pete Rose. Pete Rose is the only player in MLB history to play more than 500 games at 5 different positions. He played 939 at first, 629 at second, 634 at third, 671 at left, 595 at right. So like I said, when Chris Bryant kind of dabbled in this, he just dipped his toe in.
Yeah.
I mean, Pete Rose is waiting in this whole situation.
Normally, every single team in Major League Baseball has a guy that does this, that plays, multiple 4 or 5 different positions, and they're normally they're 26 man on the roster,
exactly.
Like the guy that's in the last spot. So for him to do this, also being one of maybe the best players on the team, best hitter in the history of the game,
yes,
and playing all these positions, just incredible stats.
Yes, and I I saw a stat, and I can't remember if it was from Pardon My Take or where it was from, but I really wish I would have grabbed it. No, this was MLB Network. I can't remember which year it was, but it was the year of the pitcher. It was the year Bob Gibson did his thing, and the league was hitting like 232 on average, the whole league. Pete Rose was hitting 305 and won a batting title. just to kind of put in perspective how elite this gentleman was. Now, I think one of the highlights, especially for me, prior to his passing and post baseball career, was that iconic video on MLB Network, I believe, or no, it was on Fox, I think, with him, Big Hurt, and A-Rod. And he's talking about how he would adjust if he thought he was going into a slump. And you could tell, like, Frank Thomas is like, okay, yeah. And A-Rod's looking at him like he's talking a whole different language. And I think the main difference there is that Pete actually knew how to hit. A-Rod just was a really good guesser. Because, I mean, it's very well documented that the A-Rod went up there, he's like, all right, this is going to be a fastball. That's why he struck out so much. That's why he looks so silly a lot of the times. But just two total different generations, two different thought processes. But yes, I did want to lead the show off with that because respect. And rest in peace, Pete Rose. You will be forever missed. And it is a complete and utter shit show that you will go into the Hall of Fame, and it's going to be your family there, not you. Baseball should be embarrassed. Baseball should be embarrassed.
There's quite a few things that baseball should be embarrassed about. So that's it's unfortunate because, like, I think you and I have both said plenty of times on this, is probably our favorite. Yeah. Our favorite sport to follow out of all of them. But man, the people in charge of it really try their best every year, it seems like, to do something to make it worse.
Yes. But some good news, 2Ks. Cincinnati Reds have a new manager. This one came out of left field.
Yeah.
This tweet's from Jeff Passan. The Cincinnati Reds are hiring Terry Francona as their manager, sources tell ESPN. He will come out of retirement 1 year after stepping away from Cleveland and will take over a young, talented Reds team. At Feinstein was first on the news. Now, 2Ks, this is huge. I mean, Tito is not walking into an empty cupboard by any means. I mean, yes, there are a lot of holes in that lineup, but what Jeff said was a very young and talented lineup.
Absolutely.
And the sky's the limit here. I mean, Ellie De La Cruz first. I mean, he is going to benefit the most out of this. But what scares me, 2Ks, is this is a Cincinnati Reds team that isn't known for spending. But you could also say that with Cleveland.
Exactly. That's what
you could also say that with Cleveland. Now, didn't win the big one with Cleveland, but they were playing meaningful baseball September, October, November, every year he was there.
And I think that's for Cincinnati fans, that's all you can ask for. Like, we got to get this team into the postseason. We want to watch meaningful baseball in October. And because in order to win the big one, you have to put yourself in situations where you're playing baseball in October. So I think it's a great hire. It did surprise me because I honestly thought, hey, he was done. But there's a lot of young talent there, but it kind of reminds me a lot of that when he went to Cleveland. They had some young talent, but they just didn't have anything over the top. But this is a team that, hey, give it a year or two. He's gonna he's one of the best managers to ever do it. So he's gonna get them. They will be playing baseball while he's there in Cincinnati in October.
Oh, hands down. And the one thing that Tito doesn't get enough credit for is how he handles the pitching staff, how he handles the bullpen. And as we've seen in Cincinnati, pitching is, aside from Hunter Green, maybe one or two others, is very, very spotty. So I have a feeling not only is Cincinnati getting Tito, but he knows everybody in the business. He's going to get the best of bench coaches, position coaches, pitching coaches. You're going to get the whole package with him. So, and 2Ks, this NL Central is very winnable. I mean, we saw the Brewers take a shit already.
Absolutely.
Which we'll get to here in a little bit. But yeah, this is awesome if you are a if you are a Reds fan, I'm not even a Reds fan. I'm excited for this because I want to see more Ellie De La Cruz.
Mm-hmm.
The only better situation he could have gone to would be Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
I mean, those studs in Pittsburgh, mix in a little Tito magic. Oh my gosh. Yeah. And again, same division, very winnable.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, yeah, that would have been electric. But yes, very, very, very excited for Cincinnati and what they have going on. Let's see here. Move this over here so I can see it. Okay. We'll get into that. All right. I've covered all the news so far, 2K, so let's jump into the college football talk here. And let me grab the scores from yesterday. And let's start at the top. Let's rip the Band-Aid off. Let's not keep the people waiting any longer, 2Ks. Alabama goes into Vanderbilt and gets smacked in the mouth. Vandy upsets Alabama 40-35, ripped down the goalpost, marched almost 3 miles, dumped the goalpost in the river. What a huge win for this Vanderbilt program. And off the heels of that instant classic game against Georgia, where the Alabama defense kind of goes down the shitter the second half. Next thing you know, this Ryan Williams kid came out of nowhere last week. And he had an excellent game this week too. But this defense at Alabama 2Ks is not looking too sharp.
Well, I mean, that's just that was it for me. I was kind of out and about. We had Rocket football and everything going on yesterday, so I was doing a lot of watching games, bits and pieces with my phone, from the bleachers. But just from what I watched in this one, it was just so shocking to me was how Alabama's defense could just not get off the field.
No.
They get to third down situations, can't get off the field. Vanderbilt they're in the end. You thought, I just kind of thought this is classic Alabama. Like they're going to have they have one or two of these games all the time.
Yep.
They find a way though in the fourth quarter, they'll win. They're going to pull away. They'll win by a score or two, and and it just won't be talked about again. And Vanderbilt just kept on getting a first down on in third and go situations, running the ball right into Alabama's defense, and them not being able to make a stop. And it was just like I could not believe what I was watching. Maybe one of the worst losses I've seen. Especially the new number one team, which I I disagreed with that. Anyways, I don't know how anybody jumped Texas. Texas's strength of schedule has been very, very weak, with the exception of the Michigan game, which now, 5 weeks into the thing, doesn't really look like that great of a win anyways. But I think so many people overreacted by the Alabama win over Georgia, a very banged up Georgia team also. But no, it was shocking to me. Kudos to Vanderbilt. Alabama can maybe thank Nick Saban a little bit for what he had to say on game day and give them a little bit of bulletin board material for this. But it was one of those situations where Alabama fans are ruthless and they're nuts, and I think DeBoer is going to be hearing about this one for a while because as good as Saban was and how many national championships Saban won and how many playoffs Saban got them to, the other thing that Saban didn't do was he just didn't lose games like this. And so for in DeBoer first season as an Alabama head coach, they win against Georgia and they're on top of the world. They get moved up to the number one team, and then all of a sudden you pull a dud out the week after. So but then it's just one of them seasons, it seems like, this year. I mean, with college football where you're seeing a top 5, top 10, 1 or 2, 3 of them getting beat week in, week out. Who's that team that is going to separate themselves? And to me, the only team that we've seen that do that right now is our two teams is Ohio State and Texas that have just not really showed a chink in the armor. And
I would argue Texas more than Ohio State. This since we're talking about Ohio State, they Iowa at Ohio State. Ohio State takes care of business in the second half, but 2Ks at halftime, Ohio State was up 7-0. I mean, it's kind of what you thought. I mean, Iowa's defense always going to be very good. But this is the $20 million Ohio State team.
Sure.
They shouldn't only score 7.5 points against anybody.
No.
And with the squad that Ohio State has matching up against his Iowa team, they were coming out of halftime. I'm like, Iowa's got a shot. Iowa's got a shot. A couple turnovers. You never know what's going to happen. But at the end of the day, Ohio State does what Ohio State does.
Yeah.
And 35-7 is not really indicative of how the game went.
No. And I mean, I think everybody kind of knew going into it that Iowa's defense is very solid. You know, they're gonna make any team work to be able to score points on them. Ohio State puts up 35. They're one of the best offenses in college football. Ohio State's defense is so good. Iowa's offense it's just like bad. It has been for the last, however many years. They just struggle so much to put points on the board. But this is all set up now for next weekend's clash between Ohio State and Oregon. We're going to see, Oregon started off the season, maybe the first 2-3 weeks of the season didn't really look that great. They're starting to look a little bit better. They're starting to hit it now. And I think it's perfect timing for these two teams to square off because it has all the potential to be a really, really good one.
And I think that's where game day is going, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. So, I do have our game day picks, by the way. So, and we're not doing so good.
Not doing so good.
We're not doing so hot. Neither one of us chose Cal Berkeley for this week.
Right.
I believe we both, or maybe you picked for them going to Eugene this coming week.
Okay.
So, but we can check that here in a little bit. Yeah, and then Tennessee on the road against Arkansas. Arkansas gets a big win, 19-14. I mean, this was Tennessee's quarterback's my Heisman pick, or was.
Yeah,
and he came back down to earth a little
bit. He looked like a freshman, right? The kid's gonna be unbelievable. I think we're looking at a potential. When his time comes for the NFL draft, we're looking at a potential first quarterback drafted. That's how good I think that Nico is. But last night, he played like a freshman, and it goes down to the last drive of the game where they got something going. Their drive down, and even though I think two of his top 3 or 4 receivers were out at the time because of injury, and that last play of the game, he just tries to ends up running out of bounds, and the clock can't stop the clock because they had no timeouts left, and you got to know better than that. You have to at least throw it up, even though nobody's there. You got to make something happen because running the clock out and running out of bounds, or the game's over. So, and
if you do throw something up like that, possible pass interference, defense penalty keeps the game rolling. So you are 100% right, and. Nico was kind of at least in my eyes, he was the leader in the clubhouse. No one was really talking about him. I mean, it was more, Milrose and, some of the other guys. And it's okay, what does this guy have to do? I mean, prior to this game, they're 4-0.
Right. They're
the number 4th ranked team in the country. And this dude needs some love too.
Mm-hmm.
So this is, when we talk about Alabama, when we talk about Tennessee and some of the other teams here, it's okay, there's probably not going to be too many undefeated teams this year.
No.
So let's limit the losses, stop the bleeding, and let's see how they bounce back. That to me, that's going to be we're so used to the old system where one loss, everyone's like, oh shit, season's over, and that's just not the case this year. And moving forward, so it's okay, one loss happens, all right, not ideal, but still we can do this. So how are we going to bounce back? How are we going to stop the bleeding? How are we going to improve? And how are we going to move forward? And yes, this is week 5, plenty of time to get right. And so I think that's where the rubber's going to meet the road with a lot of these. Now Alabama, I think, is going to bounce back just fine.
Yeah.
Tennessee, I kind of expect that as well. But let's Georgia takes care of business against Auburn. And this was
it was an important game for Georgia. Coming back off of that, obviously they come back on Alabama, make that a game. At one time thought, well, this is going to Georgia. They're going to end up winning this game. Then you have the huge Ryan Williams play where they, just answer back and 1 or 2 plays later, score, get back on top. And so for Georgia to get back on track the week after against a not a great Auburn team, but Auburn's going to give you your best shot. So it was an important win for Georgia. They look good. I still think that Georgia's going to be one of those teams when the playoff starts that they're going to be right in the thick of things. And they're pretty beat up right now too. I mean, they're going to get healthy here towards the second half of the season. And I think it's going to be a lot better team that we're seeing later in the year than what we necessarily saw last week.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And again, Kirby Smart's been there, done that. I don't expect Georgia to go into a slide by any means and pick up 2 or 3 losses in a row. That's just not what he does. But let's rewind 2Ks to Friday. Michigan State goes to Oregon. Doesn't look good at all. 31-10. But like you mentioned, Oregon is kind of finding their way, and kind of, this is the Oregon team we expected.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, to again play on Friday, which is number 16 playing on Friday, really didn't make much sense to me. But maybe that's what they needed. Kind of get the eyes off everything.
For sure.
Let's focus on what we got going on. They're coming into our building. Let's smack them in the mouth the first time they come in here, and
with Oregon, you had they needed 2 or 3 games to get Dylan Gabriel going. We all know Dylan Gabriel is one of the best quarterbacks in college football. He transfers in there to Oregon. Look, they're loaded from last year, but they're still having to replace certain positions. It's going to take them a couple weeks to get on track. They look like a team that's on track right now and ready for that Ohio State game.
Excuse me. Yeah, and I have. Yeah, that's going to be a hell of a game. That's going to be a hell of a game. Penn State takes care of business against UCLA 27-11. We mentioned game day being at Cal.
That was a hell of a game.
I admit I went to bed. I thought Miami was done.
Yeah, I had fallen asleep also on this one, and then I woke back up. I don't know if it was because the TV was on and the game was on, and I think I woke back up because I could hear whether it was somebody commentating that was yelling or Michael Irvin on the sidelines, throwing his body all over the place. It was something, but I woke back up and watched the ending of this game. It was an incredible ending. What a comeback from Miami! But this Miami team, to me, they deserve to be ranked where they're at because they are undefeated and they haven't lost yet. But this is a team that when they get to the playoff and actually have to play some fucking buddy, because if you look at their schedule and what they play, they don't play a ranked opponent all season long. Like, they have the easiest schedule of anybody going. And obviously, Cam Ward, he's probably, I think it's safe to say, he's probably going to be your Heisman Trophy winner just because of the numbers that he throws up. Although, if I had a vote in this, I would be voting for the running back for Boise State over anybody right now because of what he's doing. And Boise State's played. You can say all you want that Boise State, what conference do they play in? They're not in. Well, their fucking conference is probably just as good, if not better, than the ACC.
Exactly.
Especially how things are panning out there. So, and I think Miami ducks Clemson. They don't even play Clemson in the ACC. So, like, they don't play against fucking anybody. So, what's the I can't believe I can't think of his name right now, running back for Boise, but he is it Jainty? Yeah.
Ashton Jainty.
Yeah. Yep. He is to me, like, his numbers are fucking incredible. I mean, to me, there shouldn't even be a discussion on this. Like, right. He has carried himself away from the field with the numbers that he's doing. The only game I could see in the stats where he rushed for like less than 150 yards was a game where he didn't even touch the field in the second half. So, but getting back to this Miami team, that game last night, like they pulled it off and won. It's kind of similar to the game that they pulled off and won against Virginia Tech the week earlier, but they're not a great team. I don't think that this is a team that we should be spending a whole lot of time talking about. I think there's probably a good chance they get to the playoff because I don't see a loss that they have in the regular season.
Right.
But if they get there, like, they're not ready to play with some of these big boy teams in the SEC.
And oddly enough, I'm sitting here looking, and the score was 39-38 Miami. Okay. Cam Ward goes 437 yards, 2 touchdowns. Mark Fletcher Jr. has 81 rushing yards. And if you look over at the Cal stats, Mendoza I could have swore he had more than 22 passing attempts, only 285 yards and 2 touchdowns. And their leading rusher 2Ks there's 3 guys with 20 yards.
Yeah.
And
which is weird because it was the total opposite. Virginia Tech the week before just ran all over them.
yeah.
And so I kind of thought, well, if California can get anything going in the running game or any team that plays them, like you're going to run all over them. Well, it turns out that they really don't play defense anywhere. So
maybe they should join the Big 12.
yes,
Maybe they should join the Big 12. And it is weird to hear California Golden Bears in the ACC. To me, that's weird.
Mm-hmm.
Totally different coast.
Yeah.
You're probably the farthest geographically from the Atlantic Ocean. So it is what it is. It is what it is. But looking at these stats, 2K, it doesn't like you would think that Miami won by 3 scores.
Yes, absolutely.
So it was one hell of a game.
Mm-hmm.
One hell of a game. I'm actually shocked that I did fall asleep during that one, but woke up this morning and was like, "Oh, okay, okay, I can get on board with that." Texas A&M gets a big win against number 9 Miami 2Ks, a huge win, 41-10. There's a lot of folks on Twitter 2Ks that are saying that Missouri is the biggest farce of a top 10 team ever.
I think that's very it's very safe to say that. Yeah, I think they're going off of a lot of what they did last year, and they put up they had some good wins last year, but this year had really kind of benefiting off of not playing anybody. And Texas A&M, it's them getting this win, winning this 41-10 over a SEC opponent, over a top 10 team. That has to hold up well for your Irish.
Yeah, I was just going to say,
they're trying to build back now from the obvious loss that they had earlier in the year, and they need these teams, especially teams that they've beat like Texas A&M and Louisville now, to go on and win. And I know Louisville didn't help their case, yesterday, but they need Texas A&M to win a lot of these football games here down the stretch.
Yeah, and USC, since we'll skip over the Michigan game here to kind of parlay to the USC, getting back to the Notre Dame schedule and the Michigan schedule.
Well, that's the problem with Notre Dame is now you look at the beginning of the year. Well, Florida State they're going to be a pretty good team.
They're shit.
USC they're going to be a good team. Those are going to be good wins for Notre Dame. Now
They
don't look very good.
Nope.
So they need help from the teams that they've already beat.
Now, thankfully, now I mean, mind you, this is only Sunday. We're less than 24 hours removed from PJ Fleck in Minnesota beating USC. Now, I think if they would have beat Michigan the week prior,
right,
and then host USC and beat them, we are getting bombarded with PJ Fleck is the hottest coach in college football, which I don't believe for a second. But this, I have a feeling there's going to be someone in the sports media is going to say, man, PJ Fleck almost pulls off the upset against Michigan. PJ Fleck pulls off the upset, with USC. Is Minnesota back? Is he the greatest coach in Minnesota history? Where is he going next? Because obviously he can't stay there. I'm not looking forward to that.
Yeah,
looking forward to
that. See, this is the thing with, I think, for me personally, in my opinion, just as these conferences, there's so much change with these conferences, and now you're changing things up, and USC's traveling in the middle of their season to Michigan and playing in Ann Arbor, and then 2 weeks later traveling to Minnesota, playing all like. I think the traveling, in Michigan going to Washington last night, like the traveling, and California and or Miami going to California, like there's just so much travel going on that
for an ACC game.
When I see things, especially like when I'm betting on games and I'm betting on teams to cover, teams to whatever, I'm looking at, especially at the college level, how far they're traveling. It's not like the pros where they're traveling first class and staying up in the nicest hotels and have everything. These are college kids, so. When I see that kind of stuff, and maybe it's weeks where they're traveling twice in a row or something like that across the states, like that's to me is a big deal. And then the other thing of it is I just don't think that USC is that great. They put so much hype on them because of that week 1 win over LSU, and I don't think LSU's that great. So
that was kind of a last second win against
like
LSU.
USC, Minnesota, Michigan, all those teams that we've talked about kind of in that those are not teams that are ready to compete in a 12 team playoff in this year's college football slate. So,
and this was, and so let's move on to the Michigan game 2Ks. This was a very different feeling game.
yeah.
I mean, again, getting back to your point, Michigan's first away game of the year, and they go to quite possibly the farthest away. I mean,
Yeah.
they might as well have gone to Canada, for Christ's sake. But I don't think I didn't have your third string quarterback on my bingo card playing yesterday, but I think if they stick with Orgy, this game gets out of hand.
Oh, I totally agree. I think if anything, Michigan, they walk out of this with as Tuttle as their quarterback for the rest of the foreseeable future this year. And in my opinion, I think Tuttle gives them the best chance to win. I think if Tuttle starts that game last night and they don't start off 14-0 and chasing 14 after a quarter and a half of that game, maybe it's a whole different story. And I understand Tuttle made poor decision as far as with the fumble in the fourth quarter and then the interception followed up right after that. I get it. This is a kid that hasn't played a down in football game, and he's on the road in Washington and makes these decisions. I think he's going to get better as the season goes on. Was he hurt
leading up to this?
Yeah. So he was out. Well, he was only technically out and not dressed for the first 2 weeks, and then he was available to play after that. So really, the time that Orgy took over, he was available to play. Michigan has a bye week next week. I think it's kind of falls in perfect timing.
Yes.
Like get him in there because they come back after the bye and play against Illinois, and in a lot of years, I don't think Michigan fans would be very worried about Illinois. Well, look, I'm a Michigan fan that's very worried about Illinois this year.
Illinois,
and then you follow that up with Michigan State, and you know that Michigan State's going to be ready to play against them because this isn't the same Michigan team that we've had the last couple years. So we're in a little bit of a rebuilding stage, and we'll see where we go from there. We got to obviously got to get better play from the quarterback position. And on top of that, you got to get better play from the wide receivers, and we have not got that at all this year. It's been a very disappointing season, but so be it. I mean,
Washington pretty much held the Michigan's running game in check. Edwards does get almost 100 yards, but it didn't seem like that ground and pound type thing. And as soon as old buddy goes in the game, I look at Kristen and I go, man. Granted, he's played a lot of football, and you can't even really say Big Ten football because Washington isn't used to playing Big Ten football yet. So I was like, man, it's coming off an injury. How many reps has he gotten? He comes out the gate looking fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's on time with his throws. Not really spreading it around, but your tight end was the only one that was open the entire game. It seems like. And gets drives him down the field, gets a touchdown. It's like, okay, this kid can play,
right?
But I looked at Chris and I'm like, man, coming off the bench like that, I'm not. I was like, to play a flawless game in that situation would have been something spectacular.
Right?
Could it happen? Absolutely. But is it likely? Probably not. So it just so happened that the mistakes that he made were at very crucial times of the game. Had it been the first drive after he comes in, probably a different story.
Right.
But you're right. He does give you guys the best because he's the only guy, it seems right now, that is confident in passing.
Right. Yeah. I think moving forward, like I said, this bye week came at you can't ask for a better time for
100%.
it. Get him worked in with the ones more because I think it's probably safe to say since he's come back, he probably doesn't have a whole lot of work with the ones. So, getting that and then going into, these games against, look, I think Michigan's they're not a team that's going to make the playoff. That we're at that point. They're not that good. But these games here against, the next couple of weeks after the bye against Illinois and against Michigan State are huge games. Like they're the last thing they want to do is go lay a fucking dud, especially like for Sharon Moore in his first season. Like he does not want to lose to Michigan State. Does not want to lose that game. So we'll see what happens. I was getting annoyed last night when Washington and the commentators were kept calling it the revenge game, and Washington. I'll take my fucking national championship over that middle of the season. Loss there. So it's not a fucking revenge game.
No, it is what it is.
Revenge game is when if you meet again in the fucking playoff. And that time, not 2 two non-playoff teams squaring off this year after a national championship game and losing. That's not a revenge game.
There's one other game I want to touch on here, 2Ks, before we jump into our Heisman talk here. This Indiana team is fucking legit.
Mm-hmm.
Cignetti has these boys rolling. I mean, granted, they play at Northwestern at this like temporary field on the lake or whatever the hell it is, but as a Big Ten dude, I mean, granted, if you look at this Indiana team, they don't play Michigan, they don't play Oregon, they don't play Ohio State, they don't play a lot of the big guys. So to have this team go, run the table and meet up in the Big Ten championship game is not just completely out there. I mean, this is a legit possibility, and we're talking about an Indiana team that, I mean, they're a basketball town,
right?
They're a basketball town, and the last like legitimate Indiana team I can remember is when they had Penix,
mm-hmm.
and he was a freshman, came out of nowhere. Ended up getting hurt that season towards the end of the season, but had Indiana rolling up until then. And now, I mean, they came into Saturday being ranked 23rd. They take care of business against Northwestern with all of the chaos that has happened ahead of them. I have to admit, I have to see that, and the team right ahead of them, Louisville, lost to SMU, but they're going to be moving up in the standings. And this team's exciting to watch, dude.
Yeah.
I mean, granted, I haven't sat down and watched an entire Indiana game, but this was on the Big Ten Network, so
the Big Ten is the deepest conference in college football.
No, hands down.
Like and it's always been the SEC over the Big Ten. The SEC is better than the Big Ten. Well, I tell you, the fucking top teams in the Big Ten are not losing to cupcakes like the top teams in the SEC are. You look at what the top teams in the SEC have done just in the last 2 weeks.
Yeah,
pretty fucking embarrassing in my opinion. Like Alabama losing to Vanderbilt is fucking embarrassing.
Mm-hmm.
Cannot happen. Can't happen. Ole Miss getting beat last week.
Yeah.
Can't fucking happen. Missouri. I mean, I know we talked about Missouri not being very good, but a top 10 team
mm-hmm.
and getting just getting the fucking doors blown off them by Texas A&M, who we watched in week 1 couldn't even put up a fucking touchdown against Notre Dame defense. Yeah. So, and then they hang 41 on Missouri. So it's just the Big Ten's not doing that. So I think it's safe to say right now the Big Ten runs college football.
Yeah, I mean, it's you can't argue that. You can't argue that. But yeah, I'm curious. This Indiana team has definitely has my attention, and I'm definitely something to keep an eye on moving forward. Well, 2Ks, I think you let the cat out of the bag with your Heisman talk here. Now, if you were to rewound this to last week, these odds would have been totally different. I mean, we're looking at FanDuel here. They've got your boy from Boise State at plus 220. I guarantee if you would have taken this last week, it probably would have been plus 800 to 1,000. And then Travis Hunter for Colorado is number 2 at plus 320. I took him probably 2 weeks ago at plus 1,200, and followed by Cam Ward plus 450. Jay Milroe took a huge step back at plus 1,000. We're seeing Cade Klubnik from Clemson. He wasn't even on the list. Now he's up there plus 1,300. Dylan Gabriel plus 1,400. Carson Beck dropped to 1,600. Jackson Dart, plus 1,800. And before exiting with an injury, Quinn Ewers, he's down to plus 2,000. And our boy Nico is at plus 3,300. So there's definitely been a lot of movement, which you see this time of year with these Heisman odds. And if Genty has a complete shit game, or we're not putting this out in the ether, but if he happens to get hurt, you're going to see these odds drastically change again. And where is there? No, why even have Riley Leonard on this list? Come on. Plus 10,000. Get the fuck out of here.
Don't take that bet.
No, don't do that. Don't. No. If you're wanting to put $5 on that, your $5 would much be better at buyturboabeer.com. Buy 2Ks and I a beer, and we'll mention you on the show. But I'm looking for this Ryan Williams kid, and I'm not seeing him. Am I just blind?
Yeah, I'm not seeing him either. Oh, you can't gamble on him. You can't bet on him. He's only 17.
Oh, that's right. That's
only
right.
17. Yep. Yeah.
Fuck.
Yeah.
Because
I still like the Nico. Like, I like
I do
Nico, and I like those odds right now. And the reason why I like him is because he has two huge games, Heisman moment games where he plays Alabama and he plays Georgia in the regular season. And, like, he has the potential to be that good. And if his receiving core can get healthy and, you know, they take the lick from last night, they forget about it, and they go, because I think that they're a team that's good enough to play with Alabama and Georgia. And if he can have big moments and put up big numbers in those games, look, guys like Cameron Ward and Jainty, they're going to put up buco huge numbers. Yeah. But to me, when you put up numbers against top 5 opponents in the nation, those say something more than putting up 4 touchdowns against fucking Utah State or, you know, throwing for 300 and some yards and having a couple rushing touchdowns against the Cal fucking Bears or something. So, you know, that. So I'm looking at him. I like the odds. Do I think would I pick him to win it? Probably not. But as far as liking those odds where he's at right now, he could really jump on those.
Oh yeah, and a plus 3,300 2Ks.
Yeah,
not a bad return. I'm not saying sprinkle some, but you might want to sprinkle some. And we've got Shadur Sanders at plus 4,000. A lot of people are talking about him as a number 1 overall pick, and he's plus 4,000. So,
you know, and there's like you start going down that list a little bit, and I think you see better football players like that Jeremiah Smith, freshman wide receiver from Ohio State.
Mm-hmm.
He may be the best football player in college football right now.
Yeah,
like, he's that fucking good. He's give him another year or two, he's going to be Marvin Harrison Jr. like
better.
Probably better. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, I mean, the kid is incredible, and to be doing what he's doing as a freshman, like. You know, Travis Hunter, I think it's safe to say he probably is the best football player in college football right now because he plays both sides of the ball, and you know, he's one of the best defensive backs in college football, if not the best. And on top of that is, you know, just the elusive playmaker that he is as a wide receiver.
He's like the Shohei Ohtani of college football.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, yes, we probably see this, not to this level.
Yeah.
And as far as just all around dog, like football player guy, he is by far the best. Yeah. Is he gonna win it?
Probably either one of those guys in the top are going to win it, and the problem is, and the reasoning is because it's a quarterback award. I mean, it's just, we've seen it year in, year out. Like, unless something just drastically happens where a quarterback just doesn't take it and run with it, the quarterbacks just tend to win the award.
Well, 2Ks, let's chat a little bit about the baseball playoffs, and I do have one. Where is it? I got a couple Tigers tweets here. I just want to toss your way. This is from Chris Venetti over on Twitter. There are college football teams paying players more money than the Tigers playoff roster. And he retweeted a tweet from Sport Track, says that the Detroit Tigers 26-man wild card roster combines for $18.8 million of 2024 salary. 62 major league players earned more than that this season on their own. And this one here, 2Ks, backs this up, and it's this is from Brad Galley. He's a Detroit sports writer. It says Colt Keith has the highest salary on the Tigers playoff roster. He is a rookie and makes $28.33 million. Mm-hmm. And I did not grab the tweet, but the team they beat, the Astros, their closer, which gave kind of put the Tigers in this situation, makes more money himself than the whole entire playoff roster. And they say playoff because Javi Baez probably makes more than everyone else combined. And by far good riddance. But let's kind of do a quick recap of yesterday 2Ks. We won't get too much into the Tigers game. I'm just going to put this at I think the moment finally got to them.
Oh, for sure.
They needed a smack in the mouth to come back down to earth. Like you mentioned in the open, they have the perfect stopper. He's been doing it all year. He's done it against these Guardians. What scares me is he can go out and shove for 6 innings, 7 innings. The Guardians bullpen has been not only the best bullpen in baseball, but historically good.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
The only thing that would scare you as a Guards fan is they're also the most used. They have more miles on the tires than anyone else. So I don't see the guards coming out in game 2 putting up this offensive number just because Scooble's on the mound. It's just, are these Tigers bats going to wake up? And I think the answer is yes.
Yeah, that's the thing. And I think the Tigers were just punched in the mouth, obviously, yesterday, first inning, 5-0, boom, like that.
Before and out.
And the Tigers, no, they're the first ones to admit to, they're not built to come back from being down 5. Nope. Even though you have 8 innings to go, they're still not built for being down by 5.
Especially inning 2.
Right.
Top of the second. If they would have put up 1,
I mean,
I'd have been like, okay, okay, stop the bleeding, which the pitching staff did until later in the game. You after someone puts up a big number like that in the first, you have to respond with at least 1.
Right.
The next inning.
And that's and it didn't happen. And kudos to the Tigers being able to figure it out and not use up anybody else really in the bullpen. They brought in what's his name, he's been in and out. He's been hurt every now and again. Starting pitcher there for him.
He's a young kid.
Yeah. Brought him in.
The whole roster.
He pitched for I think 4 or 5 innings. He did give up the home run in the first inning because they brought him in after Holton couldn't get.
Yeah.
I think Holton only was able to get one. Holton was probably due for a bad outing. Like he's been basically untouchable all the way through this stretch that they've been on, and he gets off to kind of just wasn't sharp, and allowed runners on and kind of put them in a bad situation. They give up the home run, make it 5-0, and Tigers offense just never could get anything going. I don't take much out of it. Like I said earlier, Scooble throws tomorrow. He is your horse. They've been very, very dependent on him. Hopefully he comes out, throws away, he's been doing all season long. And if the Tigers can tie it up 1-1 in the series, I'm feeling pretty good about things. Now, the Tigers go down tomorrow and, they can't get the offense going, or Scooble gives up, has a bad outing, and they go down 2-0. It's going to be tough. It's going to be really, really tough to come back from that. So tomorrow's a very important game. But look, I mean, and I know, obviously, as a fan, you want to win these. You want to go far in the playoffs. But like, I can't help but just kind of take a step back as a Detroit fan and just be like, what we're getting right now is like.
You're playing with house money.
Right. Like we know what we have around us. We still know that we got to put some fucking money into this thing because that tweet says it all. Like college football programs paying more money than a fucking, a Detroit Tigers roster in the playoffs. Like that's a joke. Yeah. And
this isn't hockey.
So this has been the excuse is for Tigers management that they didn't want to put money into this thing until they knew that they had something. These fucking kids have proved that they are something. Yep. So now the ball's in their court. Whether they want to, continue to be if Chris Ilitch wants to continue and be a fucking joke about this thing, he can keep doing that. But now the ball's in his court because these kids have done exactly what they need to do. AJ Hinch has done exactly what he needs to do. He's proved to the world that he is one of the best managers at his job. And now it's time you put some goddamn money into this thing. Bring in and bring a team that Detroit fans and Detroit players and coaches fucking deserve. And Chris Ilitch has not done that in the time that he's been been owner.
And to see the response at Comerica the last couple, I mean, even the watch party at this game, this city loves Detroit baseball.
City loves, and that's the thing about it is the city loves anytime that you give us a good team.
Yeah.
Look at the Lions last year. Look at the Lions. Even you go back to 2 years ago when they don't make the playoffs.
Yeah.
And it was like the Lions had won the Super Bowl when they kept the Packers from making the playoffs in that week 17 or week 18, game where they beat the Packers in that, and the Packers aren't able to go. You would have thought through Detroit fans, like they had won a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And then you fast forward to last year, and they make it all the way to probably should have beat San Francisco and went to the Super Bowl last year. And gave up a huge, but still the way that the city backed them in that. And I can remember being young and when the Red Wings were so good and the city of Detroit just, it was all about the Red Wings. Everything was about
the crown
them.
jewel.
Yeah. And, you go back to, it was 2004 when the Pistons won the championship. And I mean, if you give them a good team and give them something that's worth showing up for, I think Detroit fans have proved that they are some of the best fans in the world.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, let's talk about some of the most asshole fans in the world, the Phillies. Mets go into Philly, win a big one, game 1, 6-2. To me, this was just a game that, Schwartz leads off with a bomb. Phillies bats just weren't alive at all. I mean, you could say momentum, all of this with the Mets. I get that, but that's why it's a series and not just a one gamer. I mean, I'm not worried about the Phillies at all. I mean, if you fast forward to today, they get a big win, 7-6 to tie the series at 1. But this was one that they had to come back a couple times on this Mets team.
Yeah.
And for those folks that are saying, this is the Mets are the team of destiny, I'm calling bullshit on that because we went over the Tigers payroll.
Yeah.
You multiply that by like 20, because you're looking at about a $350 million lineup here.
Mm-hmm.
That's not destiny.
No.
Get the fuck out of here. No. That's the Mets are playing up to where.
So what they should have. I mean, it shouldn't have been in the situation where they had to get hot like they did to go on this roll.
No.
And as far as for the Phillies, like, Harper did hit the home run today, so some of the bigger bats are starting.
Castellanos hit the walk.
Castellanos, he's been the guy that that really carried them today. Unfortunately, former Tiger.
Yeah. Oh shit! I do have one more Tiger. Did I put it in here? Yes. Thank you for mentioning that. This is a bonus tweet. This is from our boy Jed, Tigers UK. For the first time since 2017, a member of the 2014 Tigers rotation will not play to win a World Series ring. 2017 was Verlander, 2018 was Porcello and Price, 2019 was Max and Anibal, 2020 was Price, 21 was Smiley, 22 Verlander, 23 Scherzer last year. Kind of a weird stat.
Mm-hmm.
And now, granted, if you look at these, you'll be like, oh my God, why didn't the Tigers just keep fucking all of them? Well, there's some of these guys that you could say that, like the Anibal Sanchez, I think he kind of played out. I mean, his best years were with Detroit. Porcello went on to Boston, that 2018 team. Him and Price were with the Red Sox. Porcello had a glimpse. I mean, had flashes with Boston, but not really anything after that. Price, we kind of saw because he was with the Dodgers in 20. I mean, he really didn't play a whole big part in that. I mean, Drew Smiley was one of my favorite pitchers to watch. If you're trying to teach your kid, a left-handed pitcher, how to pitch, his delivery was flawless.
Mm-hmm.
He's bounced around here and there and everywhere, never really caught fire anywhere. The two main ones here are Verlander and Scherzer, in my opinion, that if they could have kept, I mean, they made the decision, if we have to keep one of these guys, we're going to keep Verlander, which was the right decision. I don't care what you say, what Max Scherzer went on to do. Keeping Justin Verlander, the homegrown guy that he was, that was the right decision. And ultimately had to make the choice to move him. And Verlander he would have never received the chance to compete for a ring had they not traded him. So it was kind of like a respect thing. So
yeah, it's just
what I'm trying to say is Tigers fans can't be mad at this list.
No, I mean it's when you look at it, it's incredible. But the thing is, I think there's multiple teams that probably have a list like this that they can throw up. The thing is, it's a business. I understand players move every year, every offseason. There's always players that move. I knew when it was all going down. Obviously, it was fun to watch in that time where all those guys were pitching for Detroit. But as a fan, we all knew it was going to come to an end sooner or later. And the problem with it all is if you throw one World Series in there with those guys, Verlander gets one World Series. If Scherzer gets one World Series with the Detroit Tiger uniform on,
I think he gets one.
You don't. Then we don't. Then it doesn't sting. It stings now when you look at that list. You're like, fuck.
Yeah.
But the only thing that goes through my head when I look at that list is how the fuck did we not win one? How did we not beat the Giants? How did we not beat the Giants in the World Series that season?
At least as a Red Sox fan, knowing that Mookie Betts moved on, at least we won.
Right. 100%.
He won in Boston. Yep. Does it suck that he moved on and we end up paying Devers more than him? Yeah. Yep. Yeah, because any any Red Sox fan will tell you we'll take Mookie Betts, twice a day over Devers. We're not saying Devers is bad. It's
just how good Mookie is.
Yeah. So you, in that aspect, you're 100% right. If they would have come through once, I'm not saying the moves would have been justified, but
you still don't want to
stomach it.
Still don't want him to leave, but at the same time, you're like, well, at least we got one out of him.
Yeah.
But you see that situation, and it's like the same thing as when you go back, even though that Braves rotation won one, but you still look back on it and you're like, how the hell did they only win one?
Yeah.
And but it still doesn't. It's not as bad to me as like what the Tigers situation is, because I think as good as that Braves rotation was, I think the Tigers rotation maybe was better.
Yeah.
And they didn't win one, so that's where, as a Tigers fan, it'll always sting for me, is because like I will always look at that Giants World Series and just think how did the Tigers not win that? You have two definite Hall of Fame pitchers in that, as 1 and 2 with Verlander and Scherzer, and then Anibal Sanchez is not a Hall of Famer, but at that time, for that 3 or 4 year window that he pitched in Detroit,
he was getting Cy Young votes.
Yeah, like he was freaking tough. And Rick Porcello, when he came up with Detroit there for those years, like there's a reason why Boston paid him all that money to come to Boston and pitch. It's because he at the time was damn good.
Oh, yeah.
And that Tigers rotation was number 4 guy.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, dude. And then for some years you had, I know it was kind of a mixed bag of who Detroit would throw out there for a couple years there. It was Doug Fister, who was really good. You had Armando Galarraga for a couple years, there, very solid. So that how that group never won one, it'll always eat at me.
Yeah.
And
which I think that might be, with this current regime in Detroit, is they're probably still gun shy from that, Dave Dombrowski era. But times are different. This team is different.
Right.
This team is homegrown for the most part, for the vast majority of it, and under small contracts, whereas with the Dave Dombrowski, that was a bunch of free agents. There wasn't a lot of homegrown shit there.
They traded away. They get to the deadline every year and trade away prospect 1, prospect 2. Now, their whole, and you're kind of seeing that throughout all of baseball. Like no baseball organization. It used to be come trade deadline, the top 5, 6, 7 prospects in all of baseball were being moved.
Yep.
For a starting pitcher, for a power bat, somebody. Now it's like those top like 20 prospects in baseball, they don't move. Like nobody moves them unless you're gonna throw like a Juan Soto deal out there. That's about the only trade that you see where teams were willing to throw away guys that were into that. So it's kind of it's definitely a different game than we play now. But at the same time, like you have to put money into it. You have to. The Tigers have to bring in a top tier pitcher, in my opinion.
100%.
They have to bring in a guy that is a middle of the order bat that you can slap there in the 3 spot, the 4 spot, or the 5 spot every single game. You got to have that consistency. You can't just keep on throwing, oh, this guy hits lefties really good, this guy hits righties really good. You can do that with a couple of the guys in your lineup.
3-4.
You can't do them with everybody other than Riley Green.
No.
Riley Green this season was basically the only guy that, when he was healthy, was the only guy that you knew he was going to be somewhere in the 3, 4.
Yeah.
And you knew, but he's the only one you could say that about.
Let's keep rolling here. 2Ks. Yankees get a big win over the Royals, 6-5. We finally get to see Shohei in the playoffs, and boy, did he not disappoint.
Yeah,
he did not disappoint. Went 2 for 5 with a bomb, and I think you could say that bomb was an absolute no doubter.
Right.
He basically shit all over that, for lack of better terms. He shit all over that. But yeah, this was this is probably the most intriguing series to me, 2Ks, just because these have been, if the Padres were in any other division, they're winning the division. I think they're the only wild card team over 90 wins. They were 5 games back of the Dodgers. So these are 2 very, very good teams. And I think what's going to make it even more interesting is San Diego came in hotter than the Dodgers. What's going to hurt? I hope it doesn't. But what could be the Achilles heel of this Padres team is no Musgrove. They said if they do get through this series, he might be available there forward, but you kind of have to get there before you're putting the cart before the horse there. But this is the Dodgers won 7-5 yesterday, and I believe the Padres are up right now as we speak.
3-1.
3-1. Where is it? Can't see what end of the fourth. Okay, so 3-1. Tatis has a big bomb in this one, and we already touched on the Phillies evening that series, and probably my biggest gripe about all this 2K is why the fuck are they putting these games on at 2:00 in the afternoon? So no, like baseball is all about, we're implementing the pitch clock to help move the game along. We want to bring new people in. Well, if you want to bring new people in, make these playoff games start at 5, 6 o'clock.
Yeah.
I mean, this is ridiculous. I mean, especially if you're trying to get younger viewers, like kids, they're in school right now. Yes, but before anybody says,
for me, like I could sit here until it was daylight outside talking about all the fucking problems that I have with baseball.
Yeah,
like, and it leads off, like, to lead it all off before the playoffs even start. Why is there not a day, 2 day, 3 day break from the regular season to?
Yeah.
Why are we playing a play-in doubleheader,
then playing the very next day,
and then playing the very next day on the other fucking side of the states?
Yep.
I just why not just set it up in the schedule at the beginning of the year? There's a chance that we have this situation come up. We're going to give 3 days off for everybody. Travel days. Why? What's the rush in it all? I don't get it. I don't,
because we've already broken the November barrier.
Right.
That was the big thing. We want playoff baseball in October.
So then don't have the days off when the playoffs start. Like right now we have Detroit and Cleveland playing against each other. They play on Saturday and then they don't play until Monday.
Yeah.
Why is there a day break?
That doesn't make any sense.
And it's not even a travel day.
No.
So
However,
like I said, it would be daylight. It's approximately 9:15 p.m. right now as we speak, and I could talk until it was daylight out about all the fucking issues I have with Major League Baseball.
But to me, this is an easy fix. This is an easy fix. I mean, yes, look, there was 1, 2, 3, 4 games on Saturday. Granted, you can't really bitch about this being the times they are on Saturday.
No.
What I'm talking about is the wild card round.
Right.
When there's obviously there's more games. I get that. But to me, I don't care if there's 3 games at 6 o'clock.
Right.
Give me the option to watch
options now on. Everybody has the option now on TV that's watching these games where they can watch 2 or 3 at a time on the same screen.
Exactly.
Or set it up on your fucking TV. Set up another game on your computer if you want to watch them all. Like everybody has on your phone. Everybody has these things. You don't have to have a playoff game and on a Tuesday between the Tigers and the Astros starting off at 2:30 when everybody's still at work.
You're at work. You're at school. I mean, and someone put out a tweet. It's like, oh, this is the highest ranked by views playoff or wild card round in MLB history. I'm like, okay, cool. It hasn't been around that long, but could you imagine what the views were when people can actually watch it?
Yeah.
I mean, granted, I might have.
Oh, I still watched it. Yeah. I still watched it.
But if take you for instance, young son, 2 young daughters. If you're trying to get them interested in the game, interested in the Tigers, they're old enough now to kind of know what's going on. And if the Tigers would have lost both games to Houston,
been able to see it.
No, and to me, that's when it comes to scheduling and shit like that. Football, that the NFL has it down. Has it down. Yes, the whole YouTube TV with the Sunday ticket, greatest thing on earth, and well, probably the greatest invention since the red zone. But baseball, I mean, even if you don't have like the extra innings or whatever the hell it is, they have it now where it's TBS, USA, Fox. I mean, there's plenty of other options, and most of us have multiple devices we can watch a fucking game on. So at least give us the option. And I'm not saying like it's just stupid. It's just stupid. Well, 2Ks, you want to go, jump through these football scores from today here real quick. Let's refresh this. It looks like the Cowboys Steelers are still on a delay.
Looks like it's going to start in about 10 minutes, 12 minutes.
Perfect. Well, let's start off at jolly old England.
I love this too. Like, by the way, where NFL starts on a Sunday at 9:30. Like, that's perfect.
Hey.
It plays right into, gets over. It's basically 1 o'clock, ready for the rest of the game. Start off like football. More football is always a good thing. I love it when I can watch. I was up watching Cal in Miami, and it was 1 in the morning. Rolled over, went to bed, woke up, looked at my phone, and was like, "Holy shit! Football starts in 15 minutes."
Mm-hmm.
Like and then
it goes all day.
Yeah, like
and all
this
night.
was perfect.
Vikings stay 5-0. We kind of saw a hobbled Aaron Rodgers. His knee is barking.
Scary watching it down. Jets fans had to have been like, "Oh,
here we go again. Here we go." But one of the main reasons why I cannot stand fantasy football. 2 weeks ago, pick up Sam Darnold. Didn't start him last week. Has a hell of a week. Started him over Caleb. Didn't start him over Caleb Williams. So what do I do this week? Start Sam Darnold. Sit Caleb Williams. This fucking thing.
I think it's funny because it doesn't happen to just me. So now I laugh.
Well, with our going from 10 to 12 teams, my team roster building is a little bit different. I normally wouldn't carry 2 quarterbacks and I wouldn't have to make the choice.
Right.
But it is what it is. But my main takeaway from this 2K is it wasn't Aaron Rodgers' play. It wasn't Sam Darnold's play. How in the hell is Brees Hall only have 9 carries for 23 yards?
Yeah. Some of it is play script just because, the Jets fall behind. Vikings came out real hot. Almost looked like it was going to be a game that maybe was over in the first quarter. Rodgers had a couple of turnovers that you don't normally see. They're playing from behind, but then in the second half, the Jets defense was just so much better than what they were in the first. Rodgers started to get it going a little bit. Vikings defense was able to still get quite a bit of pressure on Rodgers today. But for me, it's 2 weeks in a row. Obviously, the weather played a huge factor last week in Denver, or in New York, but against Denver in that game. But yeah, if the Jets are going to be successful, even with Aaron Rodgers, one of the best quarterbacks of all time, you got to have a run game. And nine carries for 23 yards. And even the backup, Braylon Allen, who I think is
dude's a stud.
Nobody to sniff at. I mean, he's a damn good back too.
If you watch the game, they remind you he's 19 years old.
Yeah,
about 8 times a game.
Yeah, no, kid is a stud also, and he's basically same numbers. So yeah, Jets offense have got to get better, and I don't want to be this guy, but at the same time, I got to be this guy.
Do it.
Robert Saleh is
done.
Just not the guy. I don't think he's the guy, and damn, I should have been more prepared, but I'm trying to think of offense coordinator. Hackett, offense coordinator. Obviously, had great years with Rodgers with Green Bay. But how much of the play calling was he really doing? I mean, Matt LaFleur, I think, who's kind of proven that he's
still calls the plays.
He's proven that he is he's got the track record, like he's one of the best in the business. I can't imagine that Hackett had a whole lot of, he didn't have the final say on shit. He wasn't the guy calling the plays and setting everything up and doing. I have to imagine that, and I don't know this for sure, but I have to imagine that Matt LaFleur was the one doing that. So now you have Saleh, he's a great defensive coordinator. Great defense. His defenses when he was in San Francisco, the dude he knows his shit. But I don't think he's head coach material.
No, and like I said, 14 rushes and having Aaron throw the ball 54 times is not
the recipe to.
No. And
good for Garrett Wilson owners in fantasy. I mean, and they targeted him a lot.
And this is, if you're a Jets fan, shout out Cody. This is the perfect time. I mean, all right, we need Devontae Adams. Go get him. Go
100%, 100%. It really is the perfect time. Obviously, it's going to come with, you got to give up draft picks.
It was rumored a second round pick.
Yeah, and whatnot.
To
But
me, that's a no brainer.
What the fuck did you bring Aaron Rodgers in here to do? Like, you knew that you had him for a 2-3 year window.
Yep.
This is what you're going to get him for. What the fuck do you
go all in?
Exactly. So in my opinion, like, look, this dude with Aaron Rodgers for years in Green Bay was the best duo in the NFL. So obviously some more miles, major injury last year to Rodgers, been some more miles on Devontae. Devontae took a lot of unnecessary hits with the Raiders last year and basically ever since he's left Aaron. And so he's had some injury issues in his times with the Raiders. But look, when healthy, when he's on the field, Devontae's a top 5 wide receiver in this game. Team him up with a teammate in Garrett Wilson, and Rodgers is still trying to kind of figure things out with Garrett Wilson. Them trying to get on the same page. I think they'll get there. But I think the addition of Devontae,
it makes too much.
It makes the Jets a team that, hey, they can do it. They can get hot and they can do it. I don't know if they're Super Bowl contender just because they bring Devontae, but they're a hell of a lot closer to it.
Yeah.
And so my thing is, if you brought Aaron Rodgers in here to do this, to do the damn thing and make them a playoff team and make them a team that can win in the playoffs, like, fucking do it. This is your time. What are you waiting for? Because Aaron Rodgers isn't getting any younger.
No. And if Aaron Rodgers is your guy, bringing in Devontae might get you 1 or 2 more years with him being there. Really won't touch on the Bears game. That was pretty much not a game. Caleb Williams has his coming out party, throws for over 300, 2 touchdowns. This one was a head scratcher, 2Ks. Ravens Bengals.
It was the most exciting game of the day. I know that.
My question is, before even going into overtime, Bengals had the ball, chance to win, and they run the ball to set up a field goal instead of with plenty of time left. Plenty of time left. And it's almost like kickers have had too good of a season so far that Bengals head coach is just like, hey, you know what? McPherson, get out there. Win us this one here, kid. Where, no, Joe Burrow is on absolute fire, throws for almost 400 yards, 5 touchdowns. Chase has a huge game. And continue that.
I think looking back on it, the drive before there, he throws the pick and gives the Ravens back the ball, gives the Ravens the opportunity to go down and tie that game up. And I think if that doesn't happen, or they don't, I think once that happened, it was like, we're going to be as safe as we can. Yeah. We're going to try to just play for the field goal. Field goal kickers in the NFL these days are basically fucking automatic as soon as they cross the 50. And I think that's what he was going for. Obviously, hindsight's 2020. And you probably would approach that a little bit differently, but that game was incredible to watch.
At least be more aggressive.
Be aggressive.
Make it a closer field goal.
Make it a field goal where you're kicking basically an extra point or something.
Yeah. To me that made much more sense, and the commentators were kind of agreeing with me, and I'm like, yeah, what the hell? This is stupid. But big dub for the Ravens. Bengals are kind of getting into that. Oh shit, are we going to make the playoffs? Dolphins.
No, they're not going to make the playoffs.
No. Probably the lamest game of the day. Dolphins, Patriots, 15-10. Won't get into that. Browns go into Washington.
Browns are fucking shit.
What's that?
Browns are fucking shit.
Yes.
They suck.
Yes.
And Daniels does not suck.
No, he is the real deal. And it's, as a Bears fan, it's refreshing to see Caleb finally have a great game, because Daniels has had nothing but great games. And they'll always be compared to one another. Pick one, pick two. So it's good to see, my guy have a good game. But no, yeah. And the career resurgence of Scary Terry continues because he actually has a real guy to throw in the ball. So, but yeah, this Browns team might be the worst team in the league. Colts cannot snap the 10-year drought down in Duval County. This game looked like, it especially the way the Colts rallied in the fourth quarter. it's like, all right, man, yeah, this is finally the time. But Trevor Lawrence pulls out a game. I'm pretty sure he threw for 371 this game. Pretty sure the last 2 games combined, he didn't have nearly that. I believe Joe Flacco went over 300 as well. He went 359, 3 touchdowns. Joe Flacco is having, just continuing what he did with the Browns.
Yeah.
And the Browns didn't want to tender him a contract because they've got $9 bazillion dollars, and
Flacco will lose his spot as soon as Richardson comes back, because
which is
the
dumb.
Colts have everything wrapped into Richardson as far as he's their draft pick. He's their, not that they have a huge contract wrapped up in him like what's his name there in Cleveland, Watson. But he's Richardson's their first round draft pick, so they're going to keep their chips on him, and they're going to use him. But if the Colts are playing to win, and they're playing, trying to win a division or do something this season, Joe Flacco was their best quarterback, and it's not even fucking close.
Yeah, but the Jags get their first win. They're off the schneid, 37-34, maybe a 1-week extension for Doug Peterson down there, but I don't think it's going to last long. Probably the best, should have been the best game of the day, Bills-Texans. Texans get a huge win, 23-20, walk-off, kick. CJ Stroud's back. The only
thing that happened today is Nico Collins might be out for a while, for a little bit with that hamstring injury.
Again,
which sucks.
On my fantasy team.
Yeah, Nico Collins has separated himself he's got to be in the discussion for a top 5 wide receiver in the NFL.
Hands down.
He's that good. And it's unfortunate. Hopefully it won't be nothing too long term, but with a hamstring, normally that's at least, probably a visit on the IR for weeks. So
unfortunately. Broncos get a big win against possibly the second worst team in the NFL, the Raiders. Again, no Devontae. I don't believe Crosby was there, but still, Bo Nix. I'm not going to say a coming out party for Bo Nix, but especially considering we've seen what Jalen Daniels has done, we've seen what Caleb Williams has done. Bo Nix has just kind of been okay. But the Broncos are 3-2, 2Ks. I'm not saying that they're world beaters by any means. The Broncos defense is always going to be good. Sean Payton might be onto something.
Well, it needs some credit also. Bo Nix is pretty dang good.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that he's going to go on and have careers like Caleb Williams and Jaden Daniels, because he's probably not. But he's a damn good quarterback that can win games in this league for a while.
Then we got the 49ers the Cardinals topping the 49ers.
Yeah. I think Kyle Shanahan might listen to this show. I
hope so.
Because what I say last week, Debo. My biggest flaw on Kyle Shanahan is he uses guys just too much. He uses his horses too much, and what that leads to is later in the season they're hurt. When I said that, Kyle, I wasn't saying that you don't use Debo at all.
Right.
Today they lose this game by 1, and Debo Samuel has 1 catch and 2 carries.
Yeah.
I wasn't saying you completely just don't use him at all. I was saying maybe not put him in the backfield and hand him the ball 8 fucking times.
Yeah.
But Debo Samuel, he has to touch the ball a significant amount of times because he is the biggest playmaker that you have on your team. You have to just get him the ball, because what we've seen over the years is if you get him the ball in space, he normally makes big plays happen. But Kyle, what I wasn't saying was you just completely eliminate him and try to play a football game without using him,
or build a big lead and then scale everything back.
So I'm sorry if you misunderstood what I was saying. I hope you're listening this week also, but you need to use him more.
And pretty much to start the game, Kyler rips off an 80-yard run.
Yeah.
He's still fast.
He's
still got
really
it.
fast.
He's
Looks
still
like a little Mighty Mouse running all over the place. I think you just lose him and running through the field. They can't see him.
He's like
what's funny.
He's like the Nolan's age.
Yes.
When they first put the helmet on, looks like they're gonna fall over. Like their helmet's bigger than their body.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Kid can flat out motor though.
Oh yeah. Packers get a big win in LA against the Rams, 24-19. This was kind of a back and forth game here, 2Ks. The only thing that really almost what really sunk the. Well, I guess he only had one pick. I thought he had more than that. But the biggest takeaway here, 2Ks, is Kyren Williams is still a stud.
Still a fucking stud. Matt Stafford is still a fucking stud.
Yeah.
Sean McVay is still one of the best, if not the best, in this game. Look, what these guys are doing and how they're still playing in games and still giving them chances to win, without Cooper Kupp, without Puka Nacua.
2 top 10 receivers.
Yeah, normally when that happens, if you look at just take for instance who we just talked about, San Francisco, and you eliminate Deebo Samuel and George Kittle off of that squad, it's fucking game over. They can't compete.
Mm-hmm.
We saw that a couple weeks ago when they didn't have either one of those guys, and that team fucking sucked. So with what they're going through, without 2 top 10 wide receivers in this game, and still being able to play teams close and sneak out a win here and there, if they can get those guys back here in the next couple of weeks, this is a Rams team. Look at them in the second half of the season when they get back to healthy and see where they go from there, because I'm not giving up on this team yet.
No, they are. And again, one of the big question marks with this Rams team is how in the hell are they going to play without Aaron Donald? He's not someone you can just plug and play and replace.
Right.
This Packers offense is legit. No, only to hold them to 24 points. If you would have told the Rams that you're going to hold the Packers to 24 points, they're like, okay, we're in this, and they were, and we saw Jordan Love's first pick six, probably the shortest pick six in this season, which I'm not even sure why the Rams player just didn't tackle him to get a safety. He just kind of shoved him and didn't shove him hard enough to go out of bounds. So he throws it. It is what it is. But yes, big shout out to Blake Corum.
He did get a few touches today. Looked pretty good.
Should have gotten the end zone.
Yeah. Yep.
Should have gotten the end zone. Had 2 cracks at it, and then they're like, all right,
I'm gonna bring in a guy that has a nose for getting in the end zone.
Yep.
And let him go at it. Kyren Williams is he the best running back in the NFL right now?
He's the best running back in the NFL that no one talks about.
Yeah.
Except for us.
Yeah.
Because we're awesome.
And the craziest thing to me is leading up to the fantasy season, it seemed like everybody was trying to give you all the reasons why you don't draft him.
That's because they said that the plan was for him to return punts and kicks.
Right. Yeah.
And it's like, okay, if you do that, then you can't be a running back.
And then when they drafted Corum, everybody was like, oh, well, Corum's, even though Sean McVay has basically been the coach that's ran with one guy ever since he's coached in the NFL. And Kyren Williams coming off that career year that he had last year, why would you not continue to do it? And then you have all the injuries that they've had, so you're going to lean on him even more.
Mm-hmm.
And he's going to be, in my opinion, his numbers will be better when he gets those guys back. Sure. Because you're not just going to stack the boxes like they play now on them. No, I think he's. Fucking name a. Go ahead, anybody out there, name a running back that's better in the NFL today.
You'd be hard pressed.
Yeah.
You'd be hard pressed. Right now, I'd say a close second right now is probably the Mason kid from San Francisco, which none of us ever heard of until Christian McCaffrey.
Christian McCaffrey's healthy. Christian McCaffrey maybe is the best running back in the game, but right now we don't even know if we're going to see him or when we're going to see him.
I got one, Derrick Henry.
Derrick Henry for the last years, but right now, all right, Kyle, you have the option, Derrick Henry or Kyren Williams. Who are you going to take? I'm taking Kyren Williams all day long. 5 years ago,
Derrick Henry.
Taking Derrick Henry for sure, but right now, no. And to me, it's not even close.
Yeah, I don't want to go too off track here, but the Pardon My Take guys were talking about how Derrick Henry is probably going to be the last running back to get 10,000 yards. And the next closest one is I can't remember who it was. Probably should have taken notes, but it's a side. Oh, Zeke. Zeke is the next closest, which he needs like 1,500 yards.
Yeah. Don't
think he's going to get there.
Tell you what, there's a guy in Boise State right now.
Well,
we talked about earlier. That's going to have a career in the NFL.
You and PMT or PFT, excuse me, we're on the same wavelength there. But they also said that Derrick Henry might be the last running back going into the Hall of Fame for quite a while.
Mm.
I mean, there's still young guys there. Don't get me wrong. The Saquons.
But and we went through that time like where it was almost like the running back position in the NFL just was. I mean, they weren't getting paid. Teams weren't paying them because they just used and abused them, and then you just moved on from them.
Find a younger, cheaper version.
But I feel like the way that kind of defenses are setting up. Like, I think you're going to have that change in the game again, where right now it's so pass heavy, but I think defenses are starting to play to that. You're putting more cover guys on the field. You're maybe doing away with so many of your true safeties, your true linebackers, and you're going more, with nickel corners on the field because you want to be able to defend the pass, obviously, because that's what everybody that's successful does in the NFL right now is they throw.
Mm-hmm.
But don't you think that over time, and I think we're already starting to see it, and probably this year I think teams are starting to rely back on the running game more. And I think that I think it's always going to be a wave that changes all the time. I don't know if it's just going to stick with, it's always going to be this big pass heavy game. I think now we're kind of going into, and it's not like we're just going into it now, but we're kind of getting into it where, NFL teams are wanting not just a pocket passer. They want to get a guy in their system that is dual threat, can do, and that can run the football and make throws and do all that. So I just don't see the games going in a direction and staying in that direction forever. I think it's always, these coaches are so damn good at what they do that they're always looking for whatever edge they can get. And they're always trying to do something and stay in front of, what everybody else is doing. I just don't see, I guess I can't get on board with that because I think it'll always be kind of changing year in as the years go through, because if you get stale and run the same shit all the time, you're gonna get passed up in this game.
Oh yeah. Well, let's wind the slate down here. 2Ks. Giants get a big win at Seattle, 29-20. If I remember correctly, Seattle drives down, goes to kick a game-winning or game-tying field goal, and Giants block it, running back for a touchdown. That's 2 big losses now for Seattle. They're coming into the Lions game, where 3-0. Lions took care of business there. This this should have been a slam dunk.
Mm-hmm.
You're getting the Giants at your house. Danny Dimes is terrible. What is his box score? He threw for 257, 2 touchdowns and no picks.
Mm-hmm. Can't ask for much more out of him.
No, 11 carries for 38 yards. Played a clean game, and I think that's probably one of the main reasons why. Again, here's another big reason. When Geno Smith is your leading rusher, when Kenneth Walker had 3 rushing touchdowns last week against the Lions defense is way better than this Giants defense.
Especially against the run.
Yeah.
This kind of falls into the same category a little bit as what with the Jets. How do you go in that game having a top running back in the game and he gets 6 carries? Is that what that says?
5 carries for 19 yards, but he also had 7 catches for 57 yards. But
how does the game
was kept out of the end zone?
How does the game script fall into that?
And this was a close game the whole entire game.
Yeah,
it was
right.
It was 10-10 at half.
Chasing and you got to catch up, and they just chose that they were not gonna run the football, and it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me, especially when Geno Smith is your quarterback, because when you start, you said what you said about Daniel Jones. I don't think Geno's much better. You know what I mean? So,
but it's
if you're going into football games and you're banking on Geno Smith or Daniel Jones to throw the ball to win, that's not a good recipe.
Yeah, Geno is serviceable.
Mm-hmm.
Geno's not going to turn the ball over. Danny Dimes has a tendency to turn the ball over.
Yeah.
So if you're giving me a choice between the two, I'm taking Geno Smith all day.
Mm-hmm.
But they ran the ball 11 times. Geno, now granted, in the Detroit game, playing from behind most of the game, he threw a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Had to. This game throws 40 times for 284 yards, only 1 touchdown. To me, I'm not sure what broke down, and
to me with the Seahawks it's unacceptable. And they don't even have Neighbors. Neighbors is not even playing today because it's still in concussion protocol, and you lose to the fucking Giants at home.
Yeah,
that's supposed to be the toughest place to play.
Yeah,
one of the toughest places to play.
I don't get it, but then again, Seattle is that team that even when Russ was there, Pete Carroll era, could not really put it. You couldn't tell me exactly what this team is. I mean, hell, look at the Super Bowl. It doesn't hand the ball off to Marshawn and throws a pick. I mean, this is just kind of what that team is, and it seems like that's what they're always going to be. It's sad because this roster, 2K's, this offense is loaded. Kenneth Walker, DK Metcalf, Jackson Smith and Jigba, Zach Charbonnet. I mean, you look at those studs, and you look at what they're running out there for the Giants. And how in the hell is Tyrone Tracy Jr. rushing for 129 yards? I don't get it. At least Darius Slayton is a well-known name.
Sure.
Has a big game with 122 yards and a touchdown. But it's like, what are we even doing?
Yeah.
What are we even doing?
Yeah.
But then again, that brings us full circle to our chaos weekend, not only in NFL, but also college, which is one of the reasons why we love football. movie any given Sunday, 2Ks taught us best.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anyone
that's
can
what
win.
makes this. That's what makes, especially not so much in the college game, but in the NFL, what makes it so. In my opinion, the best to watch is because of the parity in the league. Anybody truly can beat anybody, and at the end of the day, I think a lot of times we forget that these are professionals. Like, even though that they can go out and look like shit with. I mean, I use Carolina for example. Like, they just look terrible with Bryce Young as their quarterback. And I know that they didn't look good today against the Bears, but like that first game with Andy Dalton under center just looked like a completely different team. And I think it was at who they play that game when might have been the Raiders that first came back where not that the Raiders are anything special, but still, I mean, Carolina looked so bad. And then just all you do is change it to a different quarterback.
Yeah.
And it changes, everything completely changes. Everything looks like it's on time. There's rhythm to the offense. And, I mean, that's what makes this league so good is it seems like it's every single week that you're watching. There's 3 or 4 of these games. You just kind of scratch your head and you're like, what the fuck happened?
Exactly. Well, 2K crew will get you out of here on this. We gave you a little extra time this week, a little extra something. Everyone go out, have a great week. We will see you next time. And as always, Jim Rome, we're coming for you.